When was the last time you shared the gospel with somebody? Welcome to Wednesday's Coffee and Conversation. Good morning, friends. Thank you for joining us for this video. If it's not morning, you're watching this in the afternoon or evening, good afternoon, good evening to you. Glad that you're using this video. On Wednesdays, we take this time, just a couple minutes, to think about Sunday's teaching, Sunday's service, the sermon that we heard on Sunday, and actually think through some questions to put it into practice in our everyday lives, because we want to be changed. We want to be growing in our faith and in our walk with Jesus. And we're in a series on the book of Acts. And this past Sunday, Pastor Connie led us through chapter 8, which is all about different people coming to the gospel. She explained and walked us through 3 different responses to the gospel news, the message of Jesus Christ, risen and alive. Some respond to the gospel by resisting it, by rejecting it and saying, no, I'm not for that, I don't agree with that, that's not for me, and resisting the good news of God's salvation. Other people misconstrue the gospel. They make it into something that it's not. Change the details, change the purpose, change the emphasis away from what the gospel originally is. But then thirdly, some people embrace it and are changed and transformed by the gospel as they allow the gospel to change their lives. And so we want to take some moments just to think through a couple questions based off of that teaching on the 3 different responses to the gospel. So grab your family, grab some friends in a safe way, and grab a nice drink, and let's talk about these questions together. Question number 1. How did you first respond to the gospel? Think back to your first response when you first heard of the gospel news, when you first heard this message of Christ risen, of Christ your Savior. How did you first respond to it? Maybe you actually kind of were more resistant to it, or maybe you misconstrued it and didn't quite understand it. Maybe you actually just fully embraced it and it was a beautiful moment. But how did you first respond when you first heard the gospel message? This kind of question, it could be nice to reflect on your own, but hey, it's great to share these questions with one another and talk about others' different people's experience with how they first responded to the gospel. That's question number 1. Question number 2. Who can you share the gospel with? This is so practical. That's the question that I asked at the very beginning of this video. When was the last time you actually shared the gospel with somebody? And think about it. Who is someone in your life that you're close to, that you have good relationship with, that you can share this good news of Jesus and his love for them? Now, we don't kind of share this gospel message in places of relationship just haphazardly and destructively. We want to do it carefully and allow the Spirit to guide us in those conversations and to speak with love and grace and hope. But think about who is someone in your life that you can be thinking about and praying about sharing the gospel with in your life. That's question number 2. Lastly, question number 3. If they do not accept the gospel, how should you respond? This is a great point that Pastor Connie made at the end of her message. And if you need to go back, listen to it again, watch it again, wordandfullgospel.com/sermons, you'll find it there. But if the person that you share this good news with doesn't respond the way that you want them to, maybe they reject it, maybe they're more hesitant, how should you respond to them in those moments? How should you continue to love and care for them and pray for them moving forward after that conversation? I think it's really helpful to actually think about and talk about these things before we enter into those kinds of situations, because then we can actually be prepared. We can be ready for when the conversation can arise, for when the Spirit leads to us into a place where it's a really good time and a good place to open up and share the gospel with somebody. We can be prepared for those kinds of things if we've thought it through and prepared beforehand. So those are 3 questions for this week. We'll see you again next Wednesday. As always, there's another video on Friday from one of our pastors, and we'll see you this Sunday as we continue through the book of Acts.